Whereas their previous albums all seemed to capture a band set on its own artistic course, Monster feels like the first R.E.M. record where the group is reacting to the trends of what's happening around them. In a way, it makes sense. The past 3 years had seen a whole new generation of alternative rockers conquering mainstream radio, with most of them citing the Athens group as a major influence on their sound. Only while this changing of the guard was taking place, R.E.M. themselves were taking it relatively easy, refraining from major concert tours and topping the charts with spare acoustic folk records like Losing My Religion and the Automatic for the People album. So on Monster, they make the move toward reclaiming their crown as the kings of alternative rock. Essentially what this amounts to is a record that is the direct tonal opposite of Automatic for the People. While that album was soft, mournful, slow, and ruminative, the sound of this record is loud, brash, and distorted. In fact, this is the most aggressive the band has sounded on an album up to this point. Peter Buck may have returned to the electric guitar, but his trademark chiming arpeggios are nowhere to be found, replaced instead with this jagged, sloppy distortion, which can't help but feel like his interpretation of the guitar sound of his contemporaries at the time. It's led to this album being designated as R.E.M's rock album, which is a stupid description to give it, because there's not a single album in R.E.M's discography that isn't a rock record, even the acoustic ones. However, this turn towards the aggressive does have its downsides. For one thing, while R.E.M. were indeed hugely influential in the history of alternative rock and its evolution, they were always more tuneful and pop-ready than their competition, which is why so many of their songs fit so well on mainstream pop and rock radio, and why they were able to conquer the charts so easily once they signed with a major label. The alternative acts of the 90s were more jaded, apathetic, and above all else, angry. Their roots were steeped in punk rock, and even though they might be capable of a good pop melody here and there, what they specialized in making was noise, and lots of it. R.E.M's roots lied more in 60s folk rock, power pop, and new wave. And even in their darkest, most electrified moments, their focus was on hummable and catchy melodies. So when the time comes for them to match the modern alternative scene on Monster, the band tries to have it both ways. They've lathered everything in distortion and given the record this dense, murky mix, but they're still working from a template of writing jangly pop tunes. And the end result is that most of the material ends up sounding kinda generic and forgettable. Everything sits in this flat, dynamic murk, which doesn't leave much room to the imagination, the same way the rich dynamics of Automatic for the People did. The two exceptions to this, however, are the delicate falsetto sex ballad Tongue and the fantastic opening track What's the Frequency, Kenneth, the last truly great R.E.M. single. The tribute to fallen comrade Kurt Cobain, Let Me In, comes close to hitting the heights of those two tracks, but it's ruined by the distorted arrangement that it's given. It just begs to be performed acoustically in the style of Automatic for the People. The rest is either underwhelming or feels like repeats of previous successes. The album rose to the top of the charts, helped in part by heavy promotion on MTV, and the band's return to live performances on a concert tour which became infamous for drummer Bill Berry's brush with death following an onstage brain aneurysm. It sold incredibly well, about as high as Out of Time and Automatic, but in truth, much of the hype around this record was just due more to R.E.M's status as a famous rock band rather than any of the musical content found within it. It's really the end of R.E.M's classic period.